So, Kate, one of the interesting things about our review is it brings together a seasoned justice scholar and a new justice scholar. So, I first published in this literature in 2001. I've been reading this literature since the mid 90s. This is your first exposure to justice, though. It's your first justice publication. So, I think when we look back on the paper, we look back on it through different lenses and through different perspectives. We probably have very different takeaways of it. And so I thought it might be fun to kind of compare our takeaways. When I look back on the article, what strikes me is there are really four basic questions that have dominated the attention of justice scholars for the past 30 to 40 years. What is justice? How do we assess it? Why do we even think about justice issues in the first place? Why do they occur to us as we're going through our day? What kinds of behaviors does justice predict? And how and why does it predict those behaviors? And I think our review shows we have pretty good answers to those four questions now. Justice is a sense of appropriateness and decision-making contexts. It can be referenced toward particular rules that we've introduced, procedural rules, distributive rules, interpersonal rules, informational rules. It could also be assessed in a more general sense of appropriateness in the form of fairness. Why do we think about it? Well, we think about it because we're uncertain about things in our working lives. Maybe the status we have in our organization, maybe how trustworthy our boss is, maybe whether our company is doing the right thing or whether we're making progress towards our goals. What kinds of behaviors does it predict? Well, both functional and dysfunctional behaviors. On the functional side, job performance, citizenship behavior. On the dysfunctional side, deviant or counterproductive behaviors, withdrawal behaviors. And how and why does it predict those things? Well, frankly, for both cognitive reasons and affective reasons, because of the way it makes us think and because of the way it makes us feel. So maybe we think that our boss isn't trustworthy, or maybe we feel anxiety or anger. And so I think there's a lot of things that justice literature tells us about these four questions. What are your kind of takeaways as you look back on the review?
For me, my biggest takeaway is really making the justice literature more digestible.
Yeah.
There are a lot of theories in the justice literature. Fairness heuristic theory, fairness theory, uncertainty management theory, and not to mention all of the other theories that we incorporate into the justice literature. And so first getting into the literature can be really intimidating. I remember when I first got the stack of theories, or rather a virtual stack in Dropbox, and I didn't quite know where to begin. Looking at the theories, I was trying to figure out, is fairness theory and fairness heuristic theory competing theories, or are they complementing theories? How do I know which one to use? And so what I think our article does is give a tool for researchers to understand how the theories work together and work differently, and somewhat of a guide on which mediators to choose and which behaviors to choose when you're studying a phenomenon.
And I think probably it sets us up for, this is the end of Justice 1.0 as a literature, because we've answered these four questions. And then sets the stage for what we might call Justice 2.0. And so maybe what we do from here is we leave those questions behind and we study new things. And I think you're seeing the literature do that already. And so what might a Justice 2.0 paper look like? Maybe we stop studying employees and we start studying supervisors. And so maybe we say, well, what causes a supervisor to behave fairly or unfairly in the first place? Maybe we ask, well, whether a supervisor is fair or unfair, what does that do to his or her affect on the job, his or her reactions on the job? And so I suspect the readers that are they're gonna access our article, they're going to come at it from one of the two perspectives, either a newcomer to literature like you or a veteran scholar like me. And I guess we hope that regardless of which perspective they come from, they enjoy it and they get something good out of it.